Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the session. It's a pleasure. I'm Habib. I'm the web development team lead, GDSC UI, Google Developer Student Club, and it's nice to meet every one of you. Um, it's been a while. We also have started our sessions about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago, but due to different circumstances, we've not been able to have it, and now we're having the first one. So I'm really glad to be able to pull this up, and thank you for the attendance as well. The session will be kind of an interactive one where you get to ask a question. You can always raise up your e and using the raise hand button on the Google Meet call. So we can keep it more coordinated. I would appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Before we get started, would anyone like to tell us about their front end um development um journey so far? Please, anyone, so we can keep this very fast. Okay, I think in the absence of no one, then I think no one is interested in telling us about their front end development channel journey. I mean, so um maybe I should talk a little about mine, and then we can just get started into the main topic of today. Um, David, can you please put off your video, David Animation? Thank you. So I've been a front end developer for 4 years and counting now. I started 2018 or so. Started with HTML, which is what everyone is expected to start with. I moved into CSS and then into JavaScript, just like the regular web developer. Uh, my major resources, my major tool which I used for learning then was W3 schools, which is also what I highly recommend to those getting started in programming in general, because W3 schools has a whole lot of resources, a ton of resource. Um, so it has a ton of resource for programming from HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, C++, and so on. So it's a great tool, and also YouTube also. But the issue with YouTube, which I'll just highlight in probably a minute or less than a minute, is that there are so much resources on YouTube, and so you have to be very careful when selecting any resource. So you have to also filter reasonably. And one of the greatest way I use in filtering resources on YouTube is um, the kind of personality that is making the tutorial. So we have some great personalities, some great tutors on YouTube. Um, One of them is Mosh Amitani. I know if few of you guys would know him. So he's one of the best instructors I would ever recommend to anyone getting started. So he has a whole lot of tutorials ranging from front end, back end, mobile app development, and so on. And so yeah, that's that about that. All right. So getting started in the main session for today. I'll share my screen now. Just 1 second. Right. All right. I think you should be seeing my screen now. So please do identify if you are not seeing it presently. Majority of these resources I'll be using with you guys, and those that I might not be able to drop during this call, I would be sharing them after the call. Um, I'll collate everything inside the Google Docs and share them with you guys on the group. So there's this popular website. Not really sure how popular it is, but it's one of the best for getting a roadmap for any programming language you want to like get started into. So it's called roadmap.sh. And since we're talking about front end development in general, that's what we are actually focused about. We would be talking about we'll start with the JavaScript roadmap, because JavaScript is that language that runs the web in general, and then we'll go to a front end perspective of the roadmap, and then a React roadmap. So during the three phases, I'll be explaining kind of in depth what each and every one of them entail. Uh, yeah. So one second. Yeah. So for front end development, there's one major reason why people tend to like go into front end development, which is the ease of access or the ease of entry. So it is quite easier to like get into the world of front end development than getting into some other um, aspects of tech. So there are other things you can actually do in tech, probably Java for apps or whatever. But majority of these others are usually very like technical and require at least some basic knowledge in technology before getting started. So front end is usually like the go-to area for majority of people getting started. So after they do a couple of months then and they gain some level of satisfaction, they don't feel free to like explore other channels they wish to like explore. So and also another reason why people like get into front end is the rapid feedback. You can easily make something. Say for example, you make a, a UI or a screen or whatever. You can share them with friends, and they look at it. They are like, "Oh wow, you are making progress." So you yourself feel that, "Oh yes, I'm actually making progress because I did something and people can see it." Unlike things like backend where they can't see it, but they probably just have to like test the functionalities and so on like that. So as a front-end developer, you are majorly concerned with creating the experiences that users interact with, whether on web or mobile. So as a front-end developer, you can be front-end web developer or a front-end mobile developer. So majority of the ones people do, especially people just getting started, is usually the web aspect of it. So we'll talk a little about the mobile aspect of it as well. So you can be a front-end mobile developer as well, whereby you design and develop UIs, that is user interface for mobile as well. So as you know, as the front-end developer, after doing that, then okay, also as a front-end developer, you also need to like consume APIs created by the backend. So you have a ton of things to like do on your side. All right. So as we all know, front end is broadly majorly divided into three aspects, which is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Um, I'm not sure what um, like the level in which majority of us are, but I believe we should be majority of us here, or the majority of the people here should be mid-level developers or just getting started, and probably a few say senior developers here. Yeah. So we have HTML, which is basically the skeleton of your website. Um, so whatever you be building would be highly dependent on your HTML, because your HTML defines basically how your website should look, how it should look like. That is the skeleton of it. Okay, and that also the structure of your web page as well. And during HTML, you get to like learn HTML tags, how to use those tags as well, semantic HTML, and why you should make use of semantic HTML. So semantic HTML basically provides additional meaning to your content, and then CSS um, is not a language actually, so it's all I call it, it's a tool that helps in beautifying your website. In short, it gives your website a better feel to the user. So as we can all relate, you have the human body. So if you see a skeleton that is probably in the science laboratory, you see it's just a main skeleton. You can relate to how a skeleton look like. And then when you see an human body with all of the probably the human or the person is skin light or dark, light in complexion, has this kind of nose, this kind of eyes, and so on. So that's the CSS part. So it's the CSS that beautifies your website for you. And also we have JavaScript, which has the functionality of your website. So you have the human body, you have the skeleton, which is the HTML, you have the different beautifications to it, which is your CSS, and then you have the different actions that the human body can perform. So it can move from one place to another, it can raise this hand up, it can do this, it can do that. So all of those are the JavaScript parts of it. So that's just in relation with the human body, which I have just made. Continuing with this particular roadmap, so you can find it here at roadmap.sh/javascript. This will be later shared um, after this session. So here there are three things you should take note of. You have this green check mark, you have this purple check mark, and you have this black check mark. So the green check mark signifies or indicates beginner topics. That is, as a beginner, these are the things you should start with. Um, as a beginner, you should not just go directly to this purple topics or these black topics. And also then we'll talk about this what's it called? The ones with the green check mark, which are the intermediate topics, which you should also pick after your beginner topics. And then the ones with the black check mark, which are the advanced topics. So JavaScript, when getting started in JavaScript, one second, let me confirm. First, I'll start with this particular one. This one is um more broad, and then when we are done with this, we'll go to JavaScript roadmap and then the React roadmap. So yeah, the purple here is the personal recommendation that the author prefers. And one major reason why this is a personal recommendation is because, and I would like you to like take note of that. Majority of the personal recommendations are industry standard. Okay, so it's very important for you to know that we have various tools that could be used for achieving the same purpose. But amongst these various tools are those which are industry standards among them. And whenever you're like applying for a role for a job, it's most likely that these are what the companies would be requesting from you. I hope that is okay. So first, as a front-end developer getting started in front-end, majority of us just get started with HTML, which is quite fine, but it is much better you get started with learning what the internet it is itself. So you learn how the internet work, what is HTTP, browsers and how they work, and also DNS, which is domain name system for your website. So a couple of us here probably have used free hosting um, services like Virtual, Netlify, and probably some advanced one. Okay, we also have GitHub pages which you can use to like host your pages. Probably an advanced one like Heroku. So DNS and how it works. So majority of this what's it called? This hosting service make use of DNS under the hood, um, domain name, and what is hosting itself. So when you click on each of these, you would get a more descriptive topic about them. So just to know that, and also you can also have like there are some useful links here that you can click on and read more about them, and also some videos as well that does explain these things in greater detail. So after this session, probably you can always like check through them and read in more deeply into what each and every one of them entail. Please, if you have any question during this session, kindly signify using the ant icon you have on your Google Meet. So the internet is a global network of computers connected to each other, which communicates through a standard set of protocols. And these protocols, we have a couple of them. We have the web, those for the web, those for mails and so on. So for the web, we have the popular one, which is HTTP and HTTPS as well. So the HTTPS version of it is the secured version of HTTP. Okay. HTTP is a TCP/IP protocol for communication in short, which standardizes the client-server communication. Yeah. So as I said earlier, you can like click through each of these links and read more about them, and also watch the video. So there are two kind of links here: the one you can read and the one you can watch. So feel free to explore them in great details. DNS domain name servers, domain name system. I mean, so it's a phone book of the internet. So the way you have your phone book for contacts, where you can check your list and see different contacts and access or reach out to different contacts. So there's a DNS, a domain name system, which you can like access. And no, I'm not really sure you can access it, but in short, you make use of it to. Please 1 second. I need to attend to something. All right. The DNS is basically stores all websites available on the web. So that's a relatable experience with this is, say for example you want to like buy hosting, you'll be required to enter the name of your hosting, and then you'll be told if that particular, sorry, you want to buy a domain, I mean. So what's a domain in short? A domain is the name you want to give your website. So for example, you might want to give it what should I call it? Say facultyof science.com or whatever like that. So faculty of science, which is your domain um, that you want to like register on the web, you would need to like enter it in the field, and then it checks the list of the phone book, which is the domain name system, and check if that particular domain has not been taken. So if it has not been taken, then it will be made available and then you can purchase it. But if it has been taken, then you need to like find another name for it. So you can two people can share the same domain name. It has to be unique. I hope that is clear. And next we have hosting. So hosting is basically allowing people have access to your website. So when you are done building your website on your local system, you can host them and then allow people view it publicly. That's a simple definition. HTML. When you get started in HTML, you learn the basics. At least the basics of HTML are just the tags. Yes, in general the tags. So you learn all sort of different tags possible. The p tag, a tag, um, anchoring tag, tables, caption, picture, image, all in general. Writing semantic HTML. So semantic HTML basically just tells us the meaning, or it's a more descriptive kind of tag. So you need to have a section somewhere, things like that. That's what semantic HTML is for. You learn forms and validations. So in HTML we have different kinds of input fields. We have the text, we have password, we have numbers, we have etc. Conventions and best practices also to follow when learning HTML. So there's this website w3.org or so that allows you to like allows you to check if your the content of your website, if it is well structured, if you don't have any issues with your semantics and um this one second. All right. Um. Okay. Next, you could learn also accessibility of HTML. So this part is particularly useful for um what's it called? People with say disabilities that cannot easily access the web content just like everyone does. So, for example, the major stuff here is actually screen readers. Making a website good for screen readers. So that's what accessibility does. You also learn SEO basics as well. So SEO, in short, means search engine optimization. So there are some important things you need to like take note of when building your website. For example, the meta tags you add to your website and all sorts of things like that. So this would help your website rank on Google search engine. So based on how good your SEO is, and also some extra additional factors taken in place. For CSS, you learn the basics of CSS. Um, so all of this you can find on W3 schools as well. You learn how to like make use of layout. So in making layout in CSS, we have three main ways you can make layout. You can make them with float, which is the traditional way of making layout, and it's also the old way. So majority of websites, of modern website now, do not make use of float. You can also learn what's it called, CSS Flex and CSS Display and CSS Grid. So the two of them are the modern way of making CSS layout. Um, I would drop links to resources, highly recommended resources regarding CSS, Grid CSS layout, and um, all of these other individual units that we are discussing. So you could always reference them whenever you do need them. And also, if you are like just about to like learn them, you can make use of those resources, which I believe would help a lot. Also one of the major important things that we would talk about in CSS is responsive design and media query. So this ensures that your website is looks good on any kind of device. So we are on particular front end, this particular website. If you visit it or access it on your mobile device, it would look good. If you access it on a tablet, it looks good, as well as on a desktop. So in short, in any kind of screen that you access it, it just looks very good. So that's what is referred to as responsive design and media queries. Next, we have version control systems. Version control systems, in short, help you keep track of your code changes. So that's what they do. And the most popular one is Git, and Git is owned by Microsoft. I believe you people of us to know that. And you also learn what's it called? There's also the reposting services which work hand in hand with the version control system. So a popular repo hosting services GitHub, which helps you to host or maintain or keep your repositories. So that's what repo is in its long form or in its full form. So GitHub helps you to keep your repository. Git is the version control system that helps you keep tracks of your code changes. So and the major reason for this is, say for example, this comes handy both in your development stage as well as in production environment. So you need to like say for example revert back to an old code in your change. So you make use of Git to do that and all sorts of those. And next we have JavaScript as well. So getting started in JavaScript, you learn the syntax of JavaScript, different things like the let keyword, const keyword, var keyword, the loops, and the major things that you need to like do. Data structures in JavaScript such as um, map, sets, and all kind. You learn DOM manipulation, how to change the event of your DOM. So DOM means your document objects model, which is your HTML. So you make use of JavaScript to like manipulate your DOM content. Then also fetch API. So fetch API is the basics of API calls for those that have been that are and it's also an intermediate topic in JavaScript. So for those that are making use of API libraries like Axios and so on, so majority of all these libraries are all built based on Fetch API. So you can use Fetch API in its raw form to access API endpoint. You also learn ES6, which is the modern Java way of writing JavaScript. You have the map um, different for each different stores under that. So understand concepts such as hoisting, event bubbling, scope, prototype, shadow DOM, strict, and so on. Also, we have the security knowledge, which encompasses package managers. So for those that have started React or Vue or Angular, any one of these JavaScript libraries or framework, you most likely would have used any of these package managers, npm, node package manager, yarn, and pnpm. So npm is the one that is widely used. Yarn also comes in handy. So I would recommend these two of them. They both have their pros and their cons. And one of the pros of Yarn compared to npm is that it is faster than npm. But they all have their pros and their cons. Also we have CSS architecture. So there's this BEM model, BEM, which is something element model. I can't remember what it stands for. So it's a particular kind of CSS architecture you make use of in structuring your CSS and in structuring the way you write your CSS. Um, Also, you can click on it, learn more about that if need be. And also, you can see also it has this grey checkbox which says the other in the roadmap is not true. You can learn it anytime, and that's true. It's something you can pick up in a day. Yeah. You also have SAS, which is a preprocessor of CSS. It also helps in making your CSS better. So we have post SAS, we have SCSS as well. So your browser can't read, it can't read this SAS that you write. So your SAS is how would I say it? It's a way of writing CSS. I've actually said that earlier. Say for example you are writing your CSS files and you have a file like style.css, right? So that's the traditional CSS file, style.css. You can also have style.sess, okay? And then this style.sess, normally your browser can interpret, it can read your style.css, but it can't read your style.scss. So you need bundlers to like convert this your SCSS file into a CSS file, which is actually what your browser can read. I hope that is clear. We also have okay, a basic knowledge of this HTTPS course. Course is cross origin resource sharing, and this basically you would come across them when you get started in APIs, consuming APIs, and so on. So it's most likely usually come very hectic for developers just getting started in it, because the major challenge you would face with it is, say for example you are trying to access or maybe share an endpoint but it is blocked and all of those things. So there's a way to enable course and to make use of that. Short. We have build tools. Okay, now, and under build tools we have linters and formatters, task runners, module bundlers. So for linters and formatters, I would guess that majority of us are familiar with Prettier. So Prettier is um it's you can download the extension on your VS Code, and I kind of guess that majority of us here also make use of VS Code as our text editor. and those that do not make use of VS Code probably make use of Sublime Text. But VS Code is the most recommended one. Both of them have their pros and cons. VS Code might be heavy, which is a con for it, but it's not that heavy. While Sublime is less heavy. But with VS Code, it comes with a huge ton of resources, helpful resources at that. So we have Prettier. Prettier basically helps you clean your code. So you can have a disorganized code and just looks very, very ugly. So with Prettier installed, whenever you make any change to your code, it help you format your code so it makes it look more pretty in short and also more readable. So that's a, major use of that. VS Lint as well, which does something similar to that. For task right now, we have npm script. Right. For task runners, we have npm script, which does come in handy whenever you are making use of frameworks like React, Vue, or whatever. You would be seeing them a lot when you get into that ecosystem. We also have module bundlers such as Byte, Webpack. So anyone that's into React here or Vue or Angular, I've been making references to those three frameworks libraries because they are the major frameworks in front end development, even though we have others. So your Webpack helps you to like bundle your what's it called your HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript, and all, and makes the browser load them faster. Amongst other advantages that it brings up. We have our modern CSS frameworks that you can. Okay, let me see. Okay, that reminds me, I've not talked about picking a framework. So as you can see, we have different frameworks here. We have React, we have Angular, Vue, we have Built, we have Solid.js. You can see also the author has image this purple while the image now on screen. So as above here, we talked about why this is purple. So this is personal recommendation. While this the green ones are the author. So one advantage you would get if you with React is it has a huge ecosystem and it is fast booming. Almost every industry wants to make use of it. Facebook website is built on React, the web version of it. Airbnb is built on React. So many other cloud websites are built on React. So many company websites are built on React. We have Angular. One reason I would not recommend that anyone goes with Angular as a newbie is that the ecosystem is very steep and it takes a whole lot of things to be able to like get comfortable with Angular. I'm not discouraging you to not go with Angular, but if you would be going with Angular, then ensure that you have a very solid foundation in JavaScript and probably any other framework. So you have worked with a couple of frameworks before you dive deep into Angular. And also, Angular does not have the kind of ecosystem that React has, such that when you encounter an error or a bug or whatever it is, you can easily get help with your code, unlike Angular. So amongst your friends, you can ask them. Majority of them would be using React. So whenever you have an issue with React, you can always reach out to them. But for Angular, before you would see an Angular developer, among say 10 developers, then you probably would have seen say 8 React developers. I hope that is clear. And Angular is developed by Google, but they are all very good frameworks libraries. Next we have CSS frameworks that you can go with. So for the CSS frameworks, they are broadly divided into two here. We have the CSS frameworks. I'm sorry, we have the CSS first framework. We have those that are kind of heavily based on JS. Okay. Majority that are just like transitioning from CSS and trying to like pick a particular library or framework would mostly use Bootstrap because it is more popular than Boma. So you can also I also highly recommend you use Tailwind. This is also a very good CSS library, and you have more flexibility in it. And that reminds me, I've been talking about frameworks and libraries. So what are frameworks? What are libraries? So these are tools that help simplify our work and help us avoid having to like do the build up from scratch. So instead of having to like write your whole CSS from scratch, they are already components, pre-made components. Okay. So say for example you have a house that you want to build, and the house has different components such as the window, the roof, the ceiling, the burglary, and so on. So instead of building all of these things from scratch, there's already a store whereby you can just pick all of these particular parts. So it is those parts that are referred to as components. Okay, so you can easily pick all of these components and pack, or how would I say, and compose them together, and you have your working application. So that's what, in simple terms, what libraries and frameworks are. And next, we have testing your application. Already wrote your application. You want to see, okay, how well does my application work? Are there bugs in my application and so on? So you have a couple of them. I personally make use of React testing library as well as Jest, so they are highly recommended. Next, you have web components. So as you can see, these are the gray, what I call them. They are colored grid already, so was gray also, yeah. So it's another in the roadmap which is not strict. You can learn them anytime. So majority of what you need for the front end is all of these purple and green. Okay. Gray one are optional. No, they are optional, so you can learn them anytime. Learning them has not been so on. But the basics that you need, the foundations that you need, are those that have the purple and the green as well. Any questions about any does anyone need any clarification, or are we all good? Next we have web component, type checkers, so on. So for type checkers we have TypeScript, which is a superset of JavaScript. So if you have not heard of TypeScript before, it's a superset of JavaScript, and as the name implies, TypeScript. Okay, so what you do basically here is define types for different functions for different units of the application. We also have progressive web applications. So this kind of work, it's an advanced topic in web development or front ending, to be more specific. So yeah, we have progressive web applications. You can read more on that. We have server side rendering. Okay, so say for example you already built your website. Okay, you already deployed on any hosting service, say Netlify or whichever one it is. Most likely your what's it called, your website. I hope we are all like we are. If majority of us know about this Google scraping technology that checks your website, ranks it, and do all of those things. So the majority of these websites are usually client side rendering. Okay, here we have server side rendering. In the React ecosystem, the popular one there is Next.js. For Angular, we have Universal. For Vue, we have Node.js. So they help you load the content of your like in short, it's just server side rendering. They have additional advantages, and one of the additional advantages is SEO ranking, and or static site generators, and many of these other ones as well. So for the mobile application part of this, um, okay, another advantage of why you should learn React is if you learn React, which is a library actually, it's not a framework. So if you learn React, you'll be able to like easily transition into React Native, which you can use to build front end for mobile applications. Flutter is a Google technology. Um, Building this would come in handy as well. So the two of them are kind of a competitive what would I call it? The competitive technology being used nowadays for building mobile applications. I personally use React Native. Also, we have desktop applications. So we have several kind of desktop applications. For example, Facebook Messenger, which has its desktop application, Twitch, Microsoft Teams, Figma, and also the popular Visual Studio Code are all desktop applications built with Electron JS. Also, we have WebAssembly, which is a really advanced topic, and you can read more about that if you like. I think there's something I would like to talk. In general, as you can see, HTML is quite simple, easy to learn. Anyone can learn it within a couple of weeks. CSS also follows the same pattern, even though CSS is um, much more intense. It's not as simple as that to like get the advanced knowledge in CSS. But for JavaScript, you could learn that in more in you can't learn everything in months, even in years. Because there are some developers that are basically just JavaScript developers. Their entire life is JavaScript, JavaScript, and JavaScript. And the reason is simple because JavaScript is has a very huge ecosystem whereby with JavaScript you can achieve a whole lot of things. You can build web applications using React. You can build using React, using Vue, using Angular. All of those are all JavaScript frameworks and libraries, all written with JavaScript. So if you have a high level knowledge in JavaScript, you'll be able to like easily read or enter all of these stuffs and read their code. That reminds me also, majority of these things are open source. That is, you can check online and see the code that has been used to write what's it called to write React and try and understand it if you have the high level knowledge of JavaScript. You can also with JavaScript you can also build mobile applications using React Native as we've said earlier. You can build mobile applications using Electron.js. So I hope that's clear. Now okay, let's talk more about the things you need to like get on with in JavaScript itself. Introduction to JavaScript. Okay, you learn about what JavaScript is, history of JavaScript, JavaScript versions, and how to run your JavaScript. So basically, you want to run your JavaScript, you just simply need to add a script tag in your .html file, and then link that script to whatever location you have your JavaScript file. Um, Learn about variables in JavaScript. So we have three main variables. We have var, we have late, we have const. I'm learning about variable declaration. How can you declare variables? So for this three variables, there are different ways you can declare them the same way, but they have their pros and they have their cons as regarding that. I'm learning about naming conventions, naming rules, variable scopes as well. So for scopes, variable scopes, we have the block scope element, function scope element, and also global scope element. Um, pro- proto- um, Prototype inheritance, object prototype as well. Data types, data structures. So we have I think 6 or 7 data types in JavaScript. String this, and this. Can all of these are basic knowledge and also foundational knowledge you need in JavaScript before you can go to the more advanced knowledge. And as I said earlier, I would still drop resources, like my personal recommendable resources on majority of these topics. One person I highly recommend, you can always check on YouTube is Mosh Amidani. So he has huge ton of resources on all of these topics that goes in depth as well. Yes, we have type casting, data structures, equality, loop, we have for loop, while loop, do while loop, functions, and all of this in JavaScript. And we also have the asynchronous part of JavaScript and working with API. So as a front-end developer, there are two main things. Okay, there are a lot of things you'll be doing, but one of the two main things that you'll be doing in your whatever company or organization you work in is what's it called, converting your iFi, that is your high fidelity Figma files, or whatever files they are, or whatever designs they are in general. It can be in Adobe XT format, converting them to highly responsive website user interface. I hope that's clear. And the second thing you'll be doing is consuming APIs. So that is working with APIs. So you have your APIs developed by your backend developers. So when they make their APIs, they make them into endpoints. So you can each those endpoints. Probably some of them are open endpoints. Some of them require some credentials to access them. So you consume those APIs and to like have your a more functional application. Iterators, generators, these are advanced concepts in JavaScript and so on. And then you have the React developer roadmap. So React, as we said earlier, is one of the most popular, if not the most popular, JavaScript library that exists, and um, used by so many developers. So the fundamental topics here, you have component life cycles. In component life cycles, you get to learn things like component deep mount, component will updates and things like that. You learn how to like have lists. So this list and keys come from the fundamental knowledge you have in JavaScript, which is the what's it called? Having to like learning about iteration. So this is a place you would like be implementing that. You'll be learning about hooks also in React. So in React, there are two ways of developing a React application. Two major ways. The first one is using the functional approach. The second one is using the component approach. But the modern React world uses functional approach, and which is what I personally and majority of developers also use. So in functional approach, why it is, or the major reason why it is referred to as functional approach, is because you make use of hooks in it. So hooks are like the fundamental building block of them. The major ones there, or the most popular ones there, we have the use state, we have the use effect. Um, there are also some higher hooks in it, some more advanced hooks like use callback, use memo, use reducer, use context, and so on. And if you notice, you'll see that majority of these hooks start with use. So whenever you say anything, use this. Just know that that's the hook in React. I hope that is clear. We have the React ecosystem. There's something I want to talk about. Okay, okay, we have okay, I think I should in React ecosystem. So in React ecosystem, we have forms, right? Normally in your HTML, in your plain HTML, you just write your normal forms with the different input type. But there's a better way to like make all of those using either React hook form, using Formic, or using final form. I personally have experience with Formic and React hook form, and Formic is my go-to any day, anytime. Um, so majority of these things in the React ecosystem, they are all libraries, okay? So you see that you can just easily pick this library, inject it into your application using what npm, which is what your package manager. So we talked about that in the front end developer roadmap. So you use all of this. You can use majority of this what's it called libraries, inject them into your application, and play data with them. Okay, like just have a hang on with them. We have testing libraries. We talked about this earlier on. React testing library, jest, writer, secrets, and so on. We have state management. So if you have a simple React app, or even a simple React app like a to-do app, a note-taker application, you might not be needing a state management. But when those applications get very cumbersome, get very complex, and you have to manage state, you also have to manage UI components, then you'll be heavily depending on these what's it called, these state management libraries. We have the context, which is inbuilt in React. We have Redux, which you need to like is it's a library on its own. You have to like install it into your React application. We have MoveX as well. So Redux is um, an industry standard React library. And presently, we no longer even use Redux. We use Redux Toolkit. Yeah. And for your APIs and stuff, we have React Query, um, API calls, okay, Axios on Fetch Super Agent. And lastly, here we have React Native, which is for mobile app development. So that's an entire thing on its own as well. So it's something you learn entirely on its own. But once you have a very good knowledge of React, even basic fundamental knowledge of React, you can easily transition into React Native. And so that's basically all. Uh, so majority those I talk about, always come here by yourself. Check them. Once you click on this, you have like additional knowledge descriptions regarding them. Okay, they have also links to helpful resources here. Here we have the official website. We also have the official documentation, and there's a YouTube. What's it called? There's a YouTube channel. Okay, Roadmap message already has a YouTube channel that you can like go into and learn more about things. So I think that we are done with um, the front end dive deep session. So who has any question, any inquiries, any suggestions or whatsoever to like add or about or whatever? Anyone? Okay, in the absence of that. Okay, all right. In the absence of no questions, or suggestions or whatever, so I think that would be the end. But as promised earlier, I would be dropping um all of these links, resources, for each of these what's it called? For each of these libraries or roadmap and all. I'll be leaving the my personal recommendations regarding them, and also industry standards and things that you need regarding them as well in the WhatsApp group. So thank you all for attending this session. I appreciate your presence. And with that, can call it a day. Uh, all right, control.